This video was a Patreon request from Delinquent. Welcome back to the Many Toys of, the show in which we go over the action figure history of various Transformers characters. And this time around, I want to talk about one of the most iconic Autobots of all time, the generic Autobot build, if you will, Prowl. Before we begin, a big thank you to Wesley Stogdill EO1CG, Blitzvoid343, Takdira, Lunar Alpha 2748, Jack Risakaskatku 8814, The Rhythm Lensman, Random Was Here Again, Evil Zombie Eater, Limitless 2774, Bonnie AB 1206, Some Guy 4533, Vix the Kitsune, Reptosaurus King 8494, and one more colossal thank you to Delinquent, my producer, for suggesting Prowl for today's video. Prowl is a fascinating character to think about. I don't know if many people know this, but in many ways, Transformers is only the way it is today because of Prowl. The Autobot logo is based off of his head, and it was the decision to make the semi-truck and the police car good guys that led to all the cars being good guys. And since the automobiles were the good team, the name would be the Autobots. All that happens just because you had a number of Marvel writers who all came to the conclusion that the semi-truck and the cop car both had to be good guys. With that being the origin story, it makes sense that Prowl would be listed officially as Optimus Prime's second-in-command. After all, in real life, he was the second Autobot. But you never really see that play out in the fiction, at least not G1. In the G1 cartoon, there's no denying, Jazz is Optimus Prime's second-in-command. Jazz even orders Prowl out on missions. Prowl definitely has some type of advisory role, but it feels like Optimus's go-to men are always Jazz, Ironhide, Wheeljack, even Ratchet before Prowl. As for the Marvel comic, Prowl once again clearly has some position of authority, but he tends to be overshadowed due to the Marvel comic focusing more on Ratchet and the lower-ranked Autobots. It wasn't for many years that you really got a Prowl that seemed to have any type of actual military power. Even though we saw glimpses of a personality in the Marvel comics, Prowl being a very militant bot with some very extreme ideas, in the cartoon, Prowl really was more just there to fill the numbers. You get the idea that he's a good enough Autobot, but aside from one standout scene where he has a little bit of interaction with Chip Chase, the most iconic thing to happen to the guy was getting shot. Even still, Prowl was an incredible toy. When you close your eyes and think of an Autobot, you probably think of Prowl's body shape. Door wings, hood chest, the back of the car lowering out to be the legs. This is your cookie-cutter Autobot, and it definitely gives a lot of prestige to Prowl for being the ultimate example of it. In 1985, Prowl would have a mountain of toys, mostly international variants. However, in Hasbro markets, the original 84 Prowl was re-released with the rub sign. In Europe, Prowl was released by Justra and had much more similarity to the original Diaclone version of the body than the G1 Prowl toy seen in the United States. One of the most interesting variants in Transformers was the 1985 Mexican release of Prowl. IGA made Prowl far more heavy on black in his deco, leading to half his alt mode being black. But in robot mode, you also have a black head, fully black arms. It's a great look, all things considered. And for anyone curious, this is actually where we get the design of Shattered Glass Prowl. That's pretty cool. In Takara Tomy markets, there was the Milk Caramel Prowl, which was very similar to a decoy, as well as the Transformers Choco Prowl. This was a snap-together model kit put out by Kabaya. In 1986, Japan would release the Cybertron Hero Collection 22. This would give us our first decoy Prowl. In 1987, it would be released in Hasbro markets under the decoy promotion. In 1990, Prowl would be a part of the Action Master line, coming with the Turbo Cycle. Even though I typically like the Action Masters, Prowl's just a bit too undetailed for my taste. Alongside that, if you were in European markets, you'd be able to get the classic Heroes Prowl in those beautiful gold boxes. Come 1997, we would be getting two new Prowls. Starting with the Machine Wars Prowl, he was a redeco of the Machine Wars Mirage. And even though I like this, for some reason that very strange solid gold head atop a white and black body seems very bizarre to me. A very underrated Prowl, however, came with the Magnaboss gift set. You see, if you got Magnaboss, you'd get an elephant named Ironhide, an eagle named Silverbolt, and a lion named Prowl. Prowl actually has a lot of similar transformation to Tigatron and Cheetor, but I think that's a little bit more refined here. And it also amazes me that this was the only lion in the United States Beast Wars line. It would take until Leo Convoy to get another lion despite it being one of the most iconic of all animals. And I do like this Prowl. He's a shorter toy, but he is very solid with a good transformation and a good use of the mane. But I do want to point this out. There are two Beast Wars Prowls. This is where we come to a twist in our tale. You see, Prowl is a very good name, and Prowl is also a very beloved character. He was on a short list of G1 characters who managed to make it into Beast Wars. I mean, Grimlock, Ravage, and then you get to Magnaboss. Magnaboss has G1 Ironhide, G1 Silverbolt, and G1 Prowl. Putting aside the point that if we're going by G1 cartoon continuity, two of them should be dead at this point, it also means that we have a very odd situation when it comes to Transmetal 2 Prowl, who is also supposed to be G1 Prowl. What has happened is there are two Prowls that both have legitimate claim to being the original Prowl, both in the same continuity. And for more information on that, watch next week's video, The Many Toys of Prowl 2. That's where we're going to be going over the Owl Prowl, as well as Prowl from RID. Skipping over Prowl from Robots in Disguise, due to that being Prowl 2, our next proper Prowl came in 2002 as a Hard Hero statue, a very nice looking porcelain bust. Alongside that was the Transformers Collection Prowl, the first proper reissue of Prowl in Japanese markets. 2003 had a lot going for Prowl, kind of out of nowhere. Starting off with something very familiar, you'd get the Hasbro reissue of Prowl. However, this Prowl had no proper missile launchers. Instead, they tried to give him newly sculpted guns that looked very weedy. I was way more into the smallest transforming Transformers Prowl. Look at him, he's so tiny! Going from tiny to chunky, there was the Go-Go-Go-Bots Prowlbot. I love the Go-Go-Go-Bots, they're so cute! And look at this guy! It doesn't really look like Prowl, but I'm glad he exists. Like many of the G1 characters, Prowl saw his name be given to a Minicon. This was more just for the sake of copyright, but it does mean that a number of Minicons get to join in on Prowl's legacy. We're going to start off with the Emergency Minicon team, in which Prowl not only turned into a nice looking police car, but also a pretty solid looking gun, all things considered. In Japan, you'd be able to get Prowl in a nice orange and black deco, love this one. Minicon Prowl would be released one more time in 2003 as part of the Unicron Battle subline. Going into 2004, Minicon Prowl would be packed alongside Terradive, Stockade, and Magna Stampede in the Universe 2003 line. Staying in the Universe 2003 line, there would also be a Micromaster Protectobot Prowl, who was a part of the Micromaster Combiners. That same Micromaster would be released in Energon, but only in European markets. 2004 was a massive deal for Prowl because for the first time since G1, he'd be appearing in a television series. Here, he was the second in command to Rodimus, leading the Omnicons. And even though he was no longer a police car, it is nice to see that an Autobot officer still carries the name. It gives him a very regal lineage, shall we say. I love Energon Prowl's design. It's very stocky. I like how the wheels form the shoulders. Even though he doesn't have much of a pelvis, admittedly, I kinda dig the SpongeBob build. It helps that the colors are just great. Very Mirage-esque, but it works. A good deco on a good body that just happens to be called Prowl. Prowl would also get a Sam's Club redeco of Armada Red Alert, and I love this. Oh, I spoke too soon. I spoke way too soon because that same year, Kmart had an exclusive set known as the Autobot SWAT Team. not only did you get a black and white Prowl, but you'd also get a character known as Checkpoint. This is Energon Rodimus, made to look like G1 Prowl, right down to even having the chevron. And this is one of my favorite Energon bodies, given one of my favorite decos in all of Transformers. Checkpoint is beautiful, like an actual work of art. And Prowl's still great. He looks so good in the black and white. And then they can combine into one of the best looking combined forms in all of Energon due to their shared deco. Okay, Prowl cleaned up in Energon. That's what I'm learning today. The hits would just keep coming in 2005, where we got Alternators Prowl. Alternators Prowl, admittedly, isn't quite to my aesthetic taste. The robot mode is just a bit chonky, the proportions are very off, especially in the legs. I do like the head sculpt a ton, but this was an early alternator, and it shows. At least the alt mode looks incredibly nice. For alternators, it's always more focused on the car mode, so this is a very cool looking police car. I just wish that things came together a little bit better in the robot mode. In Japanese markets, you would get Prowl with a much cleaner deco and a lightsaber. Only in Takara Tomy markets, you'd be able to get the Prowl Vivid Blue Pearl Edition from Binaltech. The Hasbro version of Alternators Prowl was also released in Japanese markets as a USA edition Binaltech Prowl. To bring a bumper year to a close, Universe 2003 would have a spy changer by the name of Prowl, and quite frankly, it's a pretty good looking spy changer. I like him a lot. Going into 2006, there would be a reissue of Commemorative Series Prowl. After taking a year off, Prowl came back with a vengeance in 2008, starting with the Universe 2008 Prowl figure. Now, the Universe Datsuns by today's standards are rather bloated. They're a little bit overcomplicated and they have a lot of clear plastic that can crack, especially the door wings. However, for the time, this was a wonderful modernizing of Prowl, and I still think it's a very fun figure, incredibly well articulated, with so many options for display ability, including missile launchers that can very easily hide in its back, and it helps that the car mode looks great, nice, simple, clean, everything you want. The transformation can get just a touch finicky, but that was the style at the time. In Takara Tomy markets, you could get the Henkei Prowl, same mold with even more cartoon accurate deco. Titanium would give us the War Within Prowl. This is Prowl as he appeared in the Dreamwave story of the same name. And even though I like going for different, I'm always going to be a proponent to changing up the designs. This toy has a hard time being a toy. It's known to fall down at even the slightest interaction, and he is very brittle. However, all of that pales in comparison to what could have been the single most important thing to happen to Prowl as a character ever, that being his introduction into Transformers Animated. For many fans, myself included, this is who they think of when they hear the name Prowl. Whereas most iterations of Prowl go back to the idea of him being cold, unfeeling, a military advisor, this Prowl instead focused on a rather unsung part of his G1 bio, that being the fact that Prowl was a master of Cybertronian martial arts. In Animated, Prowl was a cyber ninja in training. He had attempted to dodge the draft under Ultra Magnus, and as a result was forced to report to training under Yokotron. But as he trained, he was able to start to find the spiritualism within it. Prowl was someone who wanted to find inner peace, but he was unable to, especially after the tragic death of his master. After that, he wanted revenge. But more than revenge, he wanted to feel like he belonged somewhere. He put himself into a self-imposed exile just because he couldn't stand to look at himself anymore. That's when Optimus Prime and his team of Space Bridge engineers found Prowl. It was clear that this gave Prowl a sense of purpose and meaning. One of the first toys of animated Prowl you'd be able to get was the Legends Prowl. He, alongside Starscream, Bumblebee, and Optimus, were all released in the Universe 2008 line as Legends figures, and this Prowl is incredible. For a guy this size, he makes for an awesome motorcycle. This Prowl would also be released alongside Ratchet and a Legends Starscream in a Target exclusive 3-pack. In Japan, the Easy Collection adored Legends Prowl. They gave him a clear smoky version as a contest prize. There was also the limited clear version of him that would be Lucky Draw. One of the most beautiful versions of Prowl has to be the Legends Class Prowl Elite Guard version. He looks amazing in the white and gold. The Deluxe Class Prowl is possibly the single best motorcycle transformer ever. I can't think of a single motorcycle Autobot that's been able to handle a transformation quite as gracefully as Prowl did. His robot mode is fully proportioned. His articulation is unimpaired. He is balanced. He looks like $1,000,000. And that's all because they were able to find a way to get the wheels into his legs. The issue with motorcycle transformers is they often struggle to find anything to do with the wheels. It's something that plagued Prime RC, it's something that plagued countless movie motorcycles, and yet here Prowl is, having cracked the code and coming off as not just very articulated, but one of the most articulated transformers of all time. A true masterclass on how to design an excellent figure, as well as one of the absolute best transformers ever made. This same Prowl would be in the Battle in Space Deluxe 2-pack. This was a Walmart exclusive. And finally, you'd be able to get Legends Prowl again, this time in a Universe 3-pack alongside the Legends Optimus and the Legends Bumblebee. 2009 would go full steam ahead. You could get the Transformers Animated Game Collection. This would give you a very show-accurate minifigure of Prowl alongside Bumblebee, Bulkhead, Optimus Prime, and 3 board games. Based on the Season 2 episode of Fistful of Energon, as well as the second half of Season 3, you could get Samurai Prowl. This was the Deluxe Prowl, but retooled to now incorporate a sidecar, and that sidecar would give Prowl Yokotron's helmet, as well as a far more samurai-inspired look. I adore this! It's basically DNA design kits before DNA design kits, and still at the deluxe price point. Popping back over to G1 Prowl, you could get the Kabaya Transformers Gum Prowl model kit. There was the Diamond Select mini bust of Prowl, which, God, there is way too much going on there. In 2010, Prowl would get a Mighty Mugs figure, which, looks cute. I like it. In Takara Tomy markets, Animated Prowl as well as Samurai Prowl would both be released. Both of them had better decos and looked amazing. Still in Takara Tomy markets, you'd be able to get Prowl and Blitzwing in a 2-pack alongside a DVD. Hey, you remember how I said that the Elite Guard Prowl in the Legend scale was incredible? Imagine that deco, but using the deluxe body. This thing is so beautiful, and also will make you go bankrupt if you try to track it down. Oh boy, that's a lot of Prowls, and we got a ton more to go. So I want to pump the brakes right here, right now, and let's pop over to third party, because you better believe they love themselves a Datsun. Iron Factory's had a few goes at Prowl over the years. Not only was there a 3-pack that would have had him, Smokescreen, and Bluescreen all in very IDW-esque designs, but they're also going to include Prowl in their new Samurai series. The first third-party Prowl I remember coming across was when they were still doing third-party versions of the Revoltech Transformers. If you were more in the mood for an IDW Prowl, G Creations made Rebel, and this is as close as we ever got to a proper IDW Prowl. I do like this toy. It is a bit bloated, there's some very fragile pieces, but it's such a good design, and this is one of the best versions of Prowl, so I'm happy that it exists if nothing else. DX9 actually has a Masterpiece Prowl just over the horizon. It's not out quite yet, but from what we've seen of it, it looks great. For Legend Scale collectors, New Age Harry is a dream. It is incredibly well proportioned and articulated. It's New Age, so it's going to look and feel like $1,000,000. Now, I will say the transformation's just a touch finicky, but that comes with the territory of Legend Scale. I still think that this is a real standout when it comes to third-party Datsuns. And that's a wrap on the third-party roundup. I thought I remembered there being so many more third-party Prowls, but no, not really. Going back into official waters in 2011, there was the Transformers 2010 Legends Class Prowl. This was just a Legend Scale Prowl, but a good one. Simple, but with all the notes you'd want hit. I don't know why, but the Chronicle version of Legends Prowl really looks strange to me. Like, there's an uncanniness to it. Creo took a stab at Prowl, and even though I'm not a big fan of the big guy, Creon Prowl is super cute. I like him. Botshot's Prowl was released alongside Sentinel Prime and Bumblebee, looked incredibly cute. Be Cool Prowl looked even cuter! Takara Tomy took another stab at that Legends Prowl, this time including him with gum. In 2013, Prowl somehow broke into the Aligned continuity. I guess it made sense. Smokescreen used to be a repaint of Prowl, now Prowl's a repaint of Smokescreen. And in Prime Cyberverse, Smokescreen was indeed repainted into Prowl. Quite frankly, I think this body works way better as Prowl. Bluestreak is supposed to be younger, a little bit more speed-oriented. This barrel-chested body never really worked for him. But for a character like Prowl, who has such an inflated ego already, it's a match made in heaven. Beast Hunter's Prowl is also really nice. I don't like the car mode, it just doesn't look painted to me. Something about having such a dark black hood and then nothing else in the rest of the body throws me off. But then you get to the robot mode, and this is great! I love it! I wish Prowl had showed up in Prime, if for no other reason than this design is so good. I hate that it's a toy line exclusive. However, the single most impressive toy of Prowl in 2013 had to be Masterpiece Prowl. This is almost like a gold standard of Masterpiece. You never really had to update him, he was great. The paint is so nice, pearlescent white, gun silver, a good onyx black. The proportions are near perfect, the transformation's intuitive. It is a masterclass. Shogo Hisui has often said that Prowl was one of the moments that Masterpiece fully took shape, and there's not much arguing it. This is still just an incredible mold, and one that they got a lot of use out of. In 2014, Creon Prowl would be in the SDCC Creon class of 1984. He's very cute, and look, he has a Rubik's Cube. You could get Loyal Subjects Prowl. Masterpiece Prowl would be released as a Toys R Us exclusive in the United States. He was more toy-accurate in deco, but is still very nice. In 2014, we got a movie Prowl toy. Age of Extinction gave us a one-step changer. That's the only movie Prowl toy. Like, that's weird, right? Oh yeah, there was also Battle Masters Prowl. Battle Masters was just Rock'em Sock'em robots, basically, and, that doesn't even look like Prowl. Of course, the most impressive Prowl of 2014 is the Q Transformers Prowl! Oh, look at him! Oh, look at him! He looks so mad! He's so mad, he's so grumpy. Oh. I like it when they look so grumpy like that. You can tell that he hates being this way. I'm sorry, Prowl, you look better. Going into 2015, there would be a lot of slowdown for Prowl, but he'd still be around. For one, you'd have Adventure Prowl. This is a repaint of the Age of Extinction Prowl released in Takara Tomy markets. Tiny Titans had a minifigure of Prowl. There was also a dollar store version of the Prowl Creon model kit released in 2015. I have to be honest with you guys though, my favorite toy of G1 Prowl is Combiner Wars Prowl. It's a remold of Streetwise, which is itself a remold of Dead End, making it one of the better molds in all of Combiner Wars, but something about this toy just speaks to me. I love the lankier proportions on Prowl. It feels like he shouldn't be a bodybuilder, he should be a leaner guy. I love the triple-barreled shotgun, I love the colors. My favorite thing though is the head. I think that this is the single best head sculpt of Prowl ever. This is still my main display Prowl. On my main Autobot shelf, this is the Prowl I use. In 2016, you could get the Unite Warriors Convoy Grand Prime gift set. This would give you a more cartoon-accurate version of Combiner Wars Prowl. But hey, Alt Mode's Prowl. That's something. In 2017, Prowl would only get one toy, the Cyber Series Prowl. This is still a great Prowl, very chunky, intended for younger audiences, but very clever all the same. 2018 was very similarly low-key. Here, we got the Takara Tomy Mall re-release of Prowl in a much more anime-accurate deco. 2019 was a massive bounce-back year for Prowl, getting multiple releases. The most important one was probably the Siege Prowl. This was a Cybertronian take on G1 Prowl. Prowl was also a frequent figure to pop up in the Cyberverse line. Even though in the Cyberverse cartoon, Prowl had very few appearances, all things considered, he was a mainstay of the toy line. Starting with the one-step changer Prowl, it's nice, solid. That Warrior Prowl is a ton of fun. Just a nice, easy conversion, constantly going back and forth with a good gimmick where the blasters pop out next to his head. Ultra Class Prowl was kind of funky. I really don't even know how his gimmick was supposed to work, because on mine it was busted since day one. Battle Class Prowl was really nice. A good mini version of Prowl that comes with a little Cosmic Patrol jet fighter, gives him an armored up mode. Very fun little toy. One of my favorite Prowl things ever was the Quintessent Invasion multi-pack. It gives you the tiny Prowl and a tiny Shockwave with one of the Quintessent judges. Tiny Turbo Changer Prowl looked pretty cute. I especially love how they remembered his missile launchers. Hell, Prowl even got a McDonald's figure. How does Prowl have more toys than Windblade, the second main character of the show? In 2020, you could get the Cyberverse Deluxe Prowl, a very fun Prowl with great blast effects, and actually is very similar to Siege Prowl in transformation. The Quintessent Invasion got reissued, but this time was a Target exclusive. A really cool Prowl that I can almost guarantee most people do not have is the Earthrise Prowl, the Autobot Alliance 2-pack that would have given you Earthrise Ironhide and Earthrise Prowl. This is a heavy remold of Siege Prowl, and it's a good body all things considered. Prowl would take a couple of years off before showing back up in Reaction. This was Super 7's 3 3/4 inch retro action figure line, giving them 5 points of articulation. Jetta Toys would also make a nano metafig of Prowl. Going into 2023, Prowl would be in yet another nano metafig box set. Buzzworthy Bumblebee just made one of the most tone-deaf 2-packs I can think of. In case anyone wants to relive trauma, we can get the corpses of Ironhide and Prowl. I want you to actually think about this. Think about how much people have been clamoring to get that Earthrise 2-pack. And then they make a new 2-pack, also of Ironhide and Prowl, but it's Prowl and Ironhide with purpose-made sculpting so that they look not only dead, but screaming in agony. This is a cruel joke, man. This is hell. We're in hell. Welcome to hell. Oh, thank you, Blockies. Thank you for just making a nice Prowl to make me think that he's okay. I can't stand it, man. Every time I close my eyes, I see it. He's coughing up the smoke. His eyes are going yellow. Every time, I just want to know he's okay. And thank you, Blockies. Legacy would also put out Animated Universe Prowl. This was the first toy of animated Prowl in nearly 15 years. And he's okay. Like a lot of the Legacy figures, they tried a bit too hard to make him match up with G1 aesthetics. A huge reason as to why animated Prowl was such a good design was due to how slender he is. But here, he's very chunky. And not chunky in a way that makes him look powerful, just chunky in a way that makes him look goofy. 2024 would be a weird year for Prowl. In Earthspark, Cyberverse Deluxe Hot Rod was repainted into Prowl. Don't get me wrong, it looks cool, good deco, but it doesn't look like Prowl. Definitely doesn't look like Earthspark Prowl. Blocky's Prowl was back, but this time he was in the exclusive yearly version. This was a Gold Lagoon version of Prowl alongside Optimus Prime, Ironhide, Longhaul, and Starscream. Blockies would also do Prowl in the Defender series, which was a super deformed chibi version of Prowl. Finally, that brings us to our current year of 2025, in which Siege Prowl will be re-released later this year. And that's it. I want you guys to actually think about how weird it is that Prowl has so many toys. He doesn't get much attention in anything. I remember months back when I made the mini toys of Jazz, I pointed out how much Hasbro dropped the ball with him. There was a point where Jazz legitimately might have been more popular than Bumblebee. He could have been the second most popular Autobot. There were even times where Jazz was more popular than Optimus Prime. And yet, I understand how Jazz fell off. It's because they killed him in the 2007 movie, and he wasn't able to reap the rewards of the movie notoriety the way a character like Ratchet was. As for Prowl, he was never in the movie. He was never in the movie. He was never in War for Cybertron or Fall of Cybertron. No major appearances in Prime. Of course, animated Prowl was incredible, but that's Prowl in name only. And yet, he endures. Prowl continuously gets new toys. And not animated Prowl, specifically G1 Police Car Prowl. Is it just because of how good a design he is? Is it just because Prowl is one of those Autobots where if you close your eyes, he pops in? Well, yes. But I also think that a lot of this comes from the notoriety that IDW gave Prowl. I think that G1 Prowl was a character with a good concept that never had any type of proper standout until IDW. And then IDW turns him into one of the most interesting characters in all of Transformers. I've been trying to figure out how to compare him to someone, and it's while I was watching the last season of Invincible that I realized Prowl is just like Cecil. He's not a bad guy. He's not malicious. He's not attempting to kill people or end lives. Prowl sees everything from a top-down perspective. Prowl is a focus on the big picture. He doesn't believe in things. He doesn't believe in the Autobot cause. He doesn't believe in inherent goodness. He doesn't believe in mercy or compassion. He doesn't even believe in Optimus Prime. But he does understand that Optimus Prime is the single best option Cybertron has to survive. In the same way you look at Cecil and you see the fact that he's willing to be patient with Mark because he understands Mark is his best bet, that's how Prowl treats the Autobot cause. And it's so fascinating. It's engaging. It's one of the best characters in all of Transformers. And even though there are many Prowls I love, animated Prowl or Spark Prowl, IDW Prowl gives us something unique. A character who's on the side of good and works to ensure good prevails, but is not themselves good. An Autobot who would look around a battlefield and say, we can either save the world or we can be the good guys. We can't be both. And when he says it, you know he means it, but you also know that Prowl will never go bad. It doesn't make sense to go bad. He just has to keep doing what he does because no one else is willing to do the dirty work. But guys, I'll ask you, which was your favorite Prowl? And is there a Prowl you're trying to track down right now? Now, we have a lot of characters to go over, but I assure you we'll go over each and every one of them before too long. You have my word. Alongside that, I'm on Patreon now. $1 will give you permanent access to my Discord server, Moonbase1. $5 will allow you to watch videos early and download any video I make straight from me. And finally, $10 will make you a producer with the ability to not only request videos directly from me, but be listed as a producer in every video I make from now on. Speaking of which, it was my producer Delinquent and their request to see the many toys of Prowl that made this video happen. A big thank you to Delinquent again for that. Past that, guys, next week we are going to go over Prowl 2. It just feels right to go over that character right after Prowl because right now there's a bit of a gap in this video, but it's because I want to give proper time to explain all the weirdness of Prowl 2. Thank you guys so much for watching, and hey, we'll see what we get up to next time.